Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the third and final install. Oops, hang on. I've got audio monitor on. Let's turn that off so you don't hear me twice. The third and final install of our series about collaborating with Capture One Live. And just to recap, if you didn't see the first or the second, you can watch them on our YouTube channel. But the first one, our Ambassador Quentin was shooting and also collaborating with our retoucher Jan in the second series when they were picking the image. And now we're just going to essentially wrap up and go for the final edit in Capture One and show you the final composite in Photoshop as well of what we did with the pictures that Quentin shot. So just rounded up the final collaboration. I've also got Matthew, our product manager, joined us as well in the webinar room. So if you have any remaining questions on Capture One Live, if you remember, this was our Capture One Live feed of all the various different shots that Quentin put in. So if you have any remaining questions on how Capture One Live works, how to get it, how to use it, and so on, feel free to put those in the chat because Matthew will be able to answer those as well. But today we're focusing pretty much on editing in Capture One because Quentin and Jan have gone through that selection process as you saw on the last one, and now we have to edit them. So rather than me constantly talking, we should go and find Jan. So there he is. Hi Jan, how you doing?
Hi David, I'm great, thank you.
Good.
Hey
Good,
everyone.
good. So as I said, if you want to ask a question, then of course put that in the Q&A tab, and then myself, Jan, or Matthew can pick that up. So Jan, let's go ahead and find your Capture One, and then you're going to show us what you did, which is good because I'm losing my voice, so I'm going to let you do the majority of the
We're going to save you and your voice.
Yeah, and if you hear any coughing or spluttering in the background, then it's me. So I'll mute myself, hopefully, if that happens. But yeah, maybe we can start by looking at which were the final images that yourself and Quentin boiled down to picking out.
Let's pick where we left up. So Quentin sent me all the EIP files. I have them all here in the session that I created for this stream. And so basically this image here is the select that we chose as the main picture. So the main frame. And what we decided while we were talking last time is that we wanted to change the right side. So this darker flowers, we wanted to take out and put those ones in and make a composition of the elements later in Photoshop as the final stage of the retouch. But before that, there were some other things that we discussed, which is, first of all, finding a good balance of light and color in the main shot, and also changing the color of the white flowers to a reddish tone, so to have a little more monochromatic color scheme, and set the mood of the whole image a bit more moody, a bit more like contrasty, and a bit darker, so that the product pops out nicely as a campaign image as it was planned to. And last but not least, we wanted to improve the golden tone and to bring out the contrast in this letters on the flacon. All right.
So not much work then.
I think we can make great use of the tools that we have and that have been already in Capture One, as well as the new feature Smart Adjustments that we want to show. Actually, this is a great example because we have to comp different shots, and therefore we can take all the adjustments that we make into style as we could earlier, but now we have the option to use the power of the layers to then have quicker and easy adjustments, and that's what I'm going to show you.
Great.
All right, so first things first. As I said, we want to set the mood of the image, and the first thing that I thought could be beneficial to the image was working a little bit on the exposure and on the overall light situation, and therefore I want to bring up the exposure a bit. So maybe 0.15 is a good let's check. Yeah, just to brighten the midtones a bit and open the darks slightly, but I want to counter that a bit with the HDR sliders. And I frequently use them. This is one of the go-to tools for me to enhance the luminosity values in an image. And here, I want to open the shadows a bit and at the same time darken the really dark parts. So when I show you the before and after, you can see that it brings some contrast, and that's exactly what we want. And from here, I would go and create everything else color related and mood related on separate layers, because as mentioned earlier, I want to make use of the smart adjustments. No, sorry, actually, it's not the smart adjustments. It's the layers and styles, right?
Layers and styles, yes. Yeah,
sorry,
smart
so many
adjustments
new
wouldn't
features and
work so well on this one.
anyway, the layers and styles. Sorry, my bad. So the next one that I want to try is work on the colors of the flowers. So I want to have the flowers in red, and for my need of having things in order, I want to name the layer. And actually, we can try using the magic brush to set a base for the selection. I can zoom in a bit so that we have a bit more control and you guys can see better. And first of all, let's check that the tolerance level of the brush is fairly low. And we can see what happens. For those of you that haven't used Magic Brush, it helps to select colors and areas of an image by same values of colors and light. Is that right?
Yeah,
David?
exactly. Yeah, exactly. So it's it's similar pixel values.
Yes.
So it's not just based on color or anything like that. So whereas the color editor requires color to make a selection, the Magic Brush is purely pixel values. So it can be white things, black things, in the middle things, and so on. And then as you can see, you're just picking up the little white flowers just by adding to
yeah, and actually it does an amazing job. And
it does.
I think one of the key things to consider here is having the low value in the tolerance so that it really concentrates on the thing that I brush over, because if you raise the tolerance too much, it tends to get crazy.
Yeah.
or ambitious.
And also, you've done a smart thing here by changing the mask color something other than red, because seeing the mask, because seeing red on red would have been a bit challenging.
That's true. So, I forgot to mention. Yes, so by pushing the button M, you can disable and enable the mask view.
Yeah.
And in the preferences, I believe here and appearance, you can change the mask color. And I work with tons of images over all the different jobs that I do, and red is always somewhere in skin or in some in backdrops in products as here, and that's for me it's a good choice to switch to something that is mostly not in skin color or in products. Like this shiny green is
nice
mostly
nuclear green.
Yes, and but I want to switch to the regular brush now to do some little refinements, and therefore I want to bring down the opacity. If you wonder how to get that menu, just hold Control and click on the image, and then you have the setting. And I want to go in with a fairly low opacity and brush over a few areas that I want to enhance with the mask. And also, since Quentin asked me to please change the values of the stem of the flower, I need to take care that this is not included in the adjustments. All right, so I guess we should be good. We can always refine the mask. So I think we could be good to go and start seeing what it does. But let me first go to the eraser mask and take out with 100% opacity and not auto mask selected. Does it do something?
Yeah, it looked like it did.
Yeah, yes, now.
It is.
So I'm going to just take out the stem and make sure that I don't change the appearance of that when I go to the adjustments. All right. I guess that is it. Maybe we can brush some more color here on the edge. And what I like to do every now and then is that I like to use the refine mask command because it's really smart as well. It helps to, let's just see what it does. So the refine mask tool just makes it a little more photographic, the mask, and not as painted. And I really like the result that it gives me. It has a very natural mask now. And,
yeah, exactly. It's just good for cleaning up those maybe too digital looking edges.
Yes. So, well, this was a lot of masking now, but let's switch off the mask and go to the adjustments. And I want to start with the white balance. And here I think what I want to do is bring up the red value quite a bit to something about 30-ish here when it turns like this magenta, and want to bring in some yellow to set the base. So what we did is actually this step already, but we have to go a little further. And I want to do two more things. The first is, let me close these ones here. I want to go to the curve adjustments and play with the main RGB curve a bit to darken it. And now I want to make use of the channels that we have, the red, green, and blue channel, to actually work on the individual colors and individual channels. So the first one would be the red one. And here I want to, wait a second, I want to bring in some red here and here so that we just leave the what's that, the neutral point, and bring in some red in the highlights and some in the shadows. And I want to take out, because this is too bright now, I want to take out green, which is the opposite color of red in digital color theory. And so if I take down the green slider here, as you can see, it starts to get, so it decreased the brightness and bring in the color. And I want to balance that with bringing the blue down to introduce yellow. And if I would go the other way, it would bring in the, as you can see here, the blue. But we want to go in that direction just to dim it down. And now I want to make use of one thing that is definitely trademarked by Quentin. He has a very smart move, and I really like that one.
Is this his secret skin tone hack? Yeah.
Yes, but it's amazing, and it works so well. So basically what you do is you pick the color that you want to change, this one here, and it just allows you to give you that exact color. But actually it doesn't really matter, since we already have a mask. We can be very creative now. We can open the tolerance completely, and we can set uniformity to 100%, also saturation, and basically nothing happened yet. But if I take this point here now, I can move the color into every direction, which is like magic. And I can then find the perfect red that I'm looking for. So what I did earlier with the curve was bringing the luminosity to the right values. And now I can find a good red to let me zoom out a bit so that we can see the whole image, just to make sure that we end up with a red that is not too saturated, but goes well in the background. And if we want to see what we did here, we can check this box here and
Pretty
see
good.
the before and after.
Yep.
And I think I want to leave it here right now because we move on with the mood, and I want to go and take that on a new layer, mood. And here I will fill the mask for the whole image, because if I wouldn't do that, there would be no changes. And so first we have to select the whole image by clicking fill mask, and then I don't have to paint it, it's just using the entire canvas. And what I want to do now is first I want to bring in some contrast and just play with it and see what happens. As I said, I want it a bit darker. I would love for it to become more contrasty. And I guess we are good somewhere here between 20 and 15, somewhere there. And the next thing I would love to do is, again, play with the high dynamic range. And here I would love to take down the shadows a bit, and also the darks a bit more, so that, let's see, maybe, yeah, that's going into a direction that I like. So we can see that the background is coming in nicely, and that the product is coming to the foreground by the background getting a little darker. And yes, I think that's already a look that I like. And as I said, I want to check the logo, or the what is that actually? Letters here, and I want to enhance them a bit. And therefore, I think we can make use of the magic brush again, with a very tiny brush. So, but if there's any questions, you just let me know, right? And
yeah, sure. No, I think everyone is engrossed as we speak. So I think don't forget, if you do want to ask any questions on any aspect, then yeah, you're more than welcome. So pop those in the Q&A column.
So what I want to do now, I forgot to create a new layer, so that was why the mask was completely green. Now we go with the magic brush again, and we just brush over this part and see what it does. And actually it really finds the edges. And as I brush over again and again, it builds up the effect nicely, and I can then create that mask with ease.
What was your tolerance set to there, Jan?
The tolerance is
14.
14 now, not as low as I had when I was painting on the flowers. That was 1. Is 14 kind of the standard? I don't know, but I think.
Well, I guess
I just picked the brush.
Yeah.
And it was at 14.
Right.
So just that part here. All right. Let's see if we can tackle this too here. Oh, that was too much. Okay, try again. Yeah, actually, it's really nice. Look at that. No. Okay, one more try here. Oh, didn't hit it.
Might need. There we go. You got it.
Yeah, I think that's good. And so I will hide the mask by hitting the letter M again. And what I want to do now is use curves to adjust the color a bit, taking out blue to bring it a bit more to the yellow side of things, maybe introducing a little green. Yes, I think that works. So, because gold is not a real yellow tone, it's more like a little dirty yellow, so green can complement that well. And Also red lightens it up a bit. And then we can use the Luma curve, for example, to enhance the contrast a bit. Just have to make sure that the bottom word doesn't get compromised too much there. Yes, but that's what I was looking for when we spoke with Quentin, that we wanted to bring out the golden color a little bit more.
Yep, looks good.
All right, so that would be the base adjustments that I would do in Capture One when developing this image for further post-production. And what I want to do now is, let me quickly check the color of the flowers. If I take down a bit more, the midtones, and the red, let's see. It was a tiny adjustment that I wanted to have. Okay. All right, and now we can create a style with the layers, and therefore I have it here in my favorite settings, and I can then go to styles and presets, hit the three dots and save a custom style. And then we can see what we want to include or not. So you can see that there are the layers here. I don't want to include the gold color because I only want to change the flowers in the other image. So I'm going to exclude that. I have the red flowers, I have the mood, which is all I need in this case, and I can save that, and we'll call it webinar Quentin David. Now I know what it is.
What a great style name.
I will find it. Yeah. Okay, so we can move on to, are there any questions on this before we move on to the next image? Or I think it was pretty straightforward.
Let's see.
Maybe there is.
There was a question from Edie, which Matthew answered, but can you open the layers in Photoshop? Which the answer is no, because no, you're working with the raw data. So within Capture One, you're not actually editing any pixels. It's just pure parametric editing, to use a nerdy term. So you're never actually editing
nice
pixels. Yeah, you're just creating a recipe, I guess, to show how the picture looks on screen. And then when you export to TIFF, JPEG, whatever, then those are baked in. But it's all non-destructive editing. But I guess, yeah, and the question really is at what point do you stop in Capture One to then go to Photoshop? But when we look at what you did in Photoshop as well, then I guess we'll see that cut-off point of like what you need to do in Photoshop.
But actually, in this example, I can go a little bit in depth into answering this, because there's a reason why I did the colorization in Capture One. I could have done that too in Photoshop or any other photo editing software, but I want to make sure that I use the power of the RAW, and actually the color tools in Capture One are pretty what's the word, powerful. And they really allow me to, especially with the masks, I can be very precise. And when it comes to exporting colors, and especially in saturated colors, and you export that and you have gradients or tonal variations, you want to have these smooth transitions. And when you do that in RAW, you have much more color information available. And you can make sure that you have a very smooth color adjustment. If you do that in Photoshop and you don't use 16-bit, you can end up with bad bending issues. And we want to definitely avoid that and make sure that we have everything we need set up in Capture One straight away. And okay, now I will switch to the second image that we selected, this one. And now I can apply the style that we just created. So it's Quentin and David right here. And I guess by default, it has the masks disabled, right?
Yeah. So
yes.
the mask isn't visible, but but the mask
but
is
only
there.
for the flowers.
Yeah.
Because there it was a partial mask, it was drawn, and therefore it doesn't include that into the
correct.
into the preset.
So
but
if you
with
save,
the mood,
if you save a style with layers, filled mask is
yes,
fine, empty mask is fine. If it's a partial mask, it will be removed. And the reason for that is, of course, the way the masks are baked, if you like, into the adjustments of Capture One. It's almost like a picture, like an overlay. So, of course, if you tried to apply a style which was created on a 30 megapixel camera to a 50 megapixel camera, it wouldn't extrapolate, if you like. Now, there could be potential ways around that, but currently the way it is that, partial masks are deleted.
Yeah, and it happens more often than not that if you have something like that and you use the style on a new image, you tend to forget where you had the masks and where not.
Yeah.
So it can end up with some surprises that you don't want. So some hidden adjustments somewhere, some dark spot, whatever that comes up in your image, and you don't even know where it comes from.
Yeah.
So it's a smart move not to have this.
Yeah, you've still got the underlying adjustment of the red flowers layer, but I guess what you're going to do now, Jan, is just recreate the mask that fits for this photo.
Yeah, you can see the adjustments are all still here, which is amazing. And because before that, before 23 actually, right? Version 23, I meant, we didn't have the ability to use styles with layers.
No, correct.
And I already can say that I don't want to miss it again. It's
good.
So much convenient. And but now, well, we can try using the magic brush again, and I only want to concentrate on those flowers here now. And let's see what it does. The tolerance, we bring it back down to 1 and see what happens. And let's go. And the opacity I can bring up. And you can see that there is not that kind of soft edge that I want right now. And I can delete this. But we will try the refine edge command. Or refine mask command.
Probably clean that up, yeah.
And I want to, let's see, I think that's going to be the tricky area here. Let me go back one step. I will do that with the regular brush and setting of a low opacity, 100% flow. So this way I can build up the edge and make sure that there is no hard edge. It should work, yes. And I can also include a bit of this edge here, that we have a smooth transition. Maybe a bit more opacity so that we don't have to wait that long. Because I believe that...
See you in 2 hours. Yeah.
You have better things to do than watching me draw masks. All right, so let's be a bit faster here on this one. But you get the point, and this is how I can transfer the effect to the new. Let's see, is there a flower or not? Let's disable this. No, this is way too much. So I'm going to use the eraser and maybe 50% brush. So I'm going to just take this down a bit because there's like this spilling, and I don't want to have these halo effects. So I could then go in and possibly do that adjustment later in editing the image in Photoshop. So I'm going to take off these. And since we have a layer, I can make use of the opacity of the layer. So I can bring down this adjustment a bit. And I want to refine the mask and see what it does to this area here. Yes. And I think it's much smoother again. I like that.
Yeah, it's much
And
better.
let's bring in the mood so you can see if it's too much or not. We can definitely take down the opacity of the layer a bit. And if we compare those two, we could also, in this image, go to the curve and maybe take down the highlights a bit so that it's not that bright. Something like this. So it's not that prominent, but it goes well with these. And that's it. That's what I would do to have that ready to be comped into this side of the image. And David, I guess that would be the point where I would export the images to set them up for the final retouching. And I prepared this prior to this so I can show you the last steps in the process and the final image, if you like.
Yeah, definitely. Let's take a look.
Okay, so let's go over to Photoshop. And as you can see here, that is the base image that we have had also in the session earlier. And I did some comp work. And what I did first was to extend the background and retouch it so that we don't have that hole here and showing the Quentin's nice equipment. But I guess the client doesn't want to see that.
So was that mostly hand-drawn almost, or was it just a lot of careful cloning and work?
So that was one adjustment that is like filling content aware. And that's why it ends up with some weird
funny
things like that.
patterns.
But it does quite well to have the smooth transition here and the gradient. And the rest is drawn and cloned so that we have got these colors here.
Painstaking work.
And then I have this image. That's the second image that we worked on. And I just disabled the mask here. So this is the shot. But with the mask, it comes in like that. So I just drew it in. And there's a little dark edge here. And I will take care of that in the next stage. But also here, I had created a mask of the logo, and I wanted to adjust the color a bit. So it's like a little more golden here. And that was the composition part, and then followed by the retouching part. And that is just basic pixel editing. So you can see here that there were some dust and some areas that I wanted to
I guess it's impossible to get a product that's completely clean, isn't it?
Yeah, I think, you know, if you're photographing in a studio, there's air going around and has these little pieces of dust. You can't do much about that.
No, exactly.
And but therefore, it's an easy fix. You just need to quickly clone or heal a bit. And sure, I could have done that also in Capture One. But to be honest, usually I do the composition first and then do the pixel retouching.
Yeah, because I guess you might end up retouching something that doesn't need to be retouched as well if it's not in the composition. Yes. Yeah, makes sense.
So the next steps were I masked out the green stems and just took down the saturation a bit. Quentin asked me to make sure that they don't pop out color-wise and go well with the muted background, and that's what we did. And then I integrated some more contrast, did that with a color lookup that I created. And it's just bringing in some more contrast, as you can see, for the final pop. And then I straightened the lines with a perspective correction. And I have some grain that I put in very gently here with a 60% overlay. And especially when making compositions, it helps to, you know, merge everything better.
Nicely,
and that would be the final result.
Nice.
Yeah,
pretty awesome.
That's what we did. That is like having the full circle now of shooting, selection, and editing in Capture One, and finishing later. Yeah.
So to I guess give the roundup between Photoshop and Capture One, there was a question actually about, can you go back and forth between Capture One and Photoshop? Yes and no. You can always round trip. Yeah, you can take and you could take that final TIFF file or that final composite back into Capture One, and then lots of people use Capture One as their delivery mechanism because it's very efficient to, output a JPEG to Dropbox, output the full res 16-bit, output a smaller one for social media, and so on. That's like a super efficient part. But I guess you draw the line at when you finish in Capture One and then move to Photoshop. So it's not like a back and forth process.
Yes, and actually there's, other than what you just said, which is an amazing use case for going back to Capture One, because the recipes are really powerful. And again, Quentin has, like, I don't know, the most recipes I've ever seen.
He's well and truly made the best of that feature. Yeah.
Yes, and that's amazing to see. So it's really smart to use that. And the other thing would be, I work a lot in commercial jobs, meaning there's always not just the agency, but also clients involved. And especially when it comes to color grading, it can make sense to, or actually it does make sense to do neutral conversions, so no color gradings whatsoever. Right. But you can create the grading and to a certain degree. And you can then do all the editing parts in an editing software and go back to Capture One and apply the grading.
Right. On the TIFF file. Yeah.
But yes, on the TIFF file. But it depends on your workflow. And so you have the option, but it's not the same. And I guess the question could also be related to working with smart objects in Photoshop, where you can, for example, if you use Camera Raw, and you you develop it as a smart object, you can then go back to the raw editing software. But this does only make sense if you don't do any retouching on top.
Right.
Because if you then change something, you basically have to do the retouch again, and that would be like no real plus in comparison.
No real benefit. Yeah. Exactly. Alec also says it's handy to bring the TIFF files or PSD, because you can also bring the PSD into Capture One. And if you have a layered PSD or layered TIFF file, just to be clear, Capture One doesn't strip those out or anything. So let's say you've got your final file, there's a few layers on it or whatever, but you can also bring it back. Let's say you then want to do a black and white version, which you could create in Capture One as well. So let's say you've got the color version, you can actually do a virtual copy of the TIFF file, make that into a black and white, but you're still working off that one master PSD. So there's lots of other things that you could do in Capture One as well. And as Alex said, final color grading, a little bit of retouching, adding some grain, because the grain tool works great in Capture One as well.
Oh yeah, yes. And actually,
and other stuff.
Just one thing. Now that you said the grain part, I actually imported the grain to the Capture One grain to Photoshop.
Interesting. So you made yourself a grain sheet.
I made grain patterns, and actually having these patterns allows you, if I may show you quickly.
Yeah, of course.
The pattern actually allows you two things. You can change the dimensions of the file, so you can expand the file, and the grain will expand with it. So you don't have to clone or do new grain. It also adjusts with the file size, and you can double click the file, and you can use the scale tool. And if you scale it up, let's say very much, you can see that the grain scales up also. Just for demonstration purposes, let's go big, and you can see that it gets really big here.
Really
and
crunchy. Yep.
You can then make use of the mask tool. You can use the different overlay layer styles, soft light, opacity. So it gives you a lot of control. And what I did was I created a neutral gray file. I imported a 50% neutral gray TIFF file into Capture One. I then applied the different grains, right? And exported that as a TIFF.
Nice.
And opened it in Photoshop and created patterns from it by doing just like a selection. And actually, I did one video about that on my YouTube channel. So
great.
You can check it out there if you like. I only use that, and whenever I bring in a new pattern or new grain, I have all those different grain patterns here, and these are all the Capture One ones, the 16-bit files here, and these ones are made from analog film, which I scanned and then applied here. So this is actually a great way to import Capture One grain into all your post-production workflow, wherever you use it. I think it should work also in other programs, but I only use Photoshop One. Anyway, that's how I can make use of the power of the grain tool here. If I don't want to go back to Capture One,
that's like stealing our IP, Jan. I'm sure it's totally fine.
Is it?
Of course.
I didn't say anything.
Yeah, no. Excellent. Right. I've put your YouTube channel, or Jan's YouTube channel, in the chat as well. So if you want to give Jan a look and a subscribe there. And also on Jan's YouTube channel, you've got links to all your other social media outlets and stuff as well.
Yes, and the Capture One webinars we did.
Yeah, exactly. And then on Capture One's channel, if you search for Jan, there's a couple of times you've been on. And also, you'll be back in December as well. And I'm going to put that link up as well. I'm so well prepared that I just need to go and get it, but it won't take me a second. Oh, that's not it. So
that's going to be fun.
Yeah, that's going to be really interesting, because that's going to be a similar exercise, I guess, but with editorial pictures.
Yes, we will have Ava Pivot with us. She's a photographer that I collaborate with very frequently, and we will show you guys how to color grade and actually work with two different fashion editorials that have been published recently. And so we want to take you on tour and show you how to set the mood and the color grade for those two series of images.
Yeah, she's pretty.
And it's going to be on 15th of December, right?
It is on the 15th of December. Yeah, exactly. Glad you know.
I was right about that.
Yeah, so I just put this Instagram up of Ava as well. So she's got some pretty nice work. So it's going to be fun to have you and her collaborating as well, and seeing the color grading, of course, that you did in Capture One as well. Because I guess with the editorial workflow, a lot of the color grading happens in Capture One as opposed to heavy stuff in Photoshop.
Yes, actually. And
I'm not logged in, but this was one of the.
This was one, and the one with the couch a bit on top, one up there in the middle.
This one, yeah, and this one.
No, sorry, there are two couches. That was misleading, but this one, yes.
Excellent, fantastic.
All right, yes.
All right. Well, I'll just check. I think Matthew in the background has been beavering away answering questions, so we are all good there. So thanks to Matthew for helping us out in the background as well.
Thank you, Matthew.
As I said, I put those links in the chat. So you've got Jan's YouTube, and when Jan is back on December the 15th with Ava. And just remains to say thanks again, Jan, and also to Quentin, who couldn't be here because he's actually on a shoot, doing proper work. Not clowning around with us. Yeah, so Quentin couldn't be here, unfortunately, but we hope you've enjoyed this series from start to finish. This one will go up on YouTube tomorrow, so then you can watch the whole series. If you missed the first or second, then you can review them all and see the entire workflow from capture to collaboration in Capture One Live, and then to the final edit in Capture One. So
absolutely.
Thanks again, Jan, for joining us. It's been a pleasure as always. Yeah.
My pleasure too. Thank you for having me, David. And if there's any question that's coming up, just everybody, you can feel free to reach out to either David or me, and we can answer your questions later on as well.
Yep, very kind. Thanks, Jan, and take care and enjoy your evening. See you later.
You too. Thank you. Goodbye, everyone. Thanks, David.